Okay, nerds, we've got some stuff going on. This is Generally Nerdy. The show is your week in nerddom, where we talk about all of the things in nerd news all over the nerddom, like the kingdom, only it's nerdy. Get it? Baby-faced and ready to go. Let's hit the intro. So, first things first, we are getting ready for Salt Lake Comic-Con. So, Salt Lake Comic-Con is the 5th, 6th, and 7th of September, which means the first week of September we will only have one episode, and we will have a lot of Comic-Con action going on. I think I actually still have at least one more video from Denver Comic-Con that I just haven't been able to edit yet, so that is on the list of things to get done before we go, but Comic-Con is coming very, very soon. I think that's all of the housekeeping, I mean, again, besides this pretty mug, but let's get into the news, shall we? First thing on the news, we're starting slightly political, I think. So Kid Rock is still apparently relevant this is what it is. Kid Rock is an outspoken conservative musician. I use the term musician fairly loosely, though he can legitimately play a few instruments and play them passively. Passingly, I guess is the word I was looking for. So maybe I'm not using that term too loosely. He's just not much of an entertainer as far as I'm concerned, though he does make millions of dollars doing it, so I am not one to make that call, apparently, because he's not my style of entertainment, but he is a rather outspoken conservative musician. And in the genre in which he plays, being heavy rock, hard rock, kinda, sorta, a little bit, maybe sometimes heavy metal, and very much nu metal back when he first came around, because it was very much about him rapping over some metal-ish instrumental music. So that being said, that subgenre, nu metal specifically, and any of the other qualifiers that you can throw at him, except for maybe some of his country stuff, because he does have some music that would quantify as being country, in all of those circles, he's really not relevant. Yes, he has the nostalgia circuit that still keeps food in his mouth effectively, but as far as the scene is concerned, as far as people who are presenting new ideas and original music, Kid Rock is not relevant. So the fact that this is a news article, it kind of says something about most news outlets, in that they're really grasping at reasons to hate conservative-minded people. And so let's not bury the lead too much here. Kid Rock tweeted at Taylor Swift, because Taylor Swift has come out relatively recently in support of two Democratic candidates. I believe they're Senate candidates. And so I'm just going to read you the tweet. This is what Kid Rock tweeted at Taylor Swift verbatim, so apologies if it's, again, a little stilted and whatever, because I'm reading. But Taylor Swift wants to be a Democrat because she wants to be in movies, ... period. And it looks like she'll suck the doorknob off Hollyweird to get there. Oldest move in the book. Good luck, girl. Dash Kid Rock. Alright, so that's what he wrote. Now, the only mention of her gender is the very last word of the very last sentence, that he's wishing her good luck. And everyone is saying that this is a very sexist tweet that he has sent out. It's maybe an inappropriate tweet. It's maybe a rude tweet, but sexist? He's not saying she's less than because she's a girl. He's not saying that only girls can suck doorknobs, to use the phrase that he's using. He is saying that she's willing to. And that somehow makes it a racist tweet. I don't think he's targeting her because she is a girl at all. I think he's targeting her because she comes from a very conservative-minded community. She is, at her origin, she is a country music star, and the country music scene is very much consistent of conservative-minded musicians, and that's part of the reason why Kid Rock has kind of started to shift gears in genre like 6 years ago, because that's where his mindset is. So he surrounded himself with like-minded people, and then his genre of music started changing. So no, I don't think that what he said is sexist. I think what he said is rude. I think what he said is vulgar. He's not targeting her because she's a girl. He's targeting her because she's a country music star who is very openly turning her back on her roots as he sees it. And that's not sexist, that's ignorant. And who cares how she aligns? The purpose for Taylor Swift's entertainment is it entertaining? Who cares about her personal politics, right? The entertainment bit just doesn't really do it for me there either, but this is a big thing, and I really felt like this is just the stupidest reason to try and target a conservative musician. But anyway, that's that bit. We're gonna leave that there. That's my opinion. What do you guys think? Let's talk about it down low in the comments. Next up, we are talking about, this is actually a follow-up. We're talking about Tool, and if you remember, on the 3rd of this month, so approximately 10 days ago, Tool released all of their existing catalog, not their newest record. That has not been released yet. No matter how hard you're looking on those pirate sites, they have not leaked it anywhere either. We can only listen to the first single, but they have released all of their back catalog onto streaming services, and because of that, because they waited so long, because they are freaking Tool, every one of their existing albums from their back catalog is now on the Billboard Top 200, with the peak of them being Aenima at number 10. And that's just freaking amazing in that I understand that Tool has a very wide attraction. They definitely cast their net, even though they've never really changed the way they do their thing. They're just weird and great at being weird. So that apparently attracts a lot more people than I anticipated, and also is a little bit of proof, maybe a lot of bit of proof, that aggressive music and legitimate alternative styles of music are viable in our American music economy. We just need quality and not the garbage that a lot of record labels are putting out. But that's a personal thing, and we're going to move on to our last piece of music news, which is slightly meta as well. There wasn't a whole lot that was really newsworthy for this episode for news, aside from the little bits that we've got. Like, no real notable song releases, no new records to announce, no incredible tours to announce, just kind of been a couple of days. So, but this is interesting because the new Slipknot record came out last week, and we know this. I've listened to it quite a few times at this point. I'm considering doing an in-depth review of it. I just don't know if I can find the time. If I do, then, it'll be up. Anyway, this guy, I don't know his name. Nocturnal, something Nocturnal. He's a YouTuber, and he does music videos, and he does reaction videos and stuff. He set out to learn, the new Slipknot record the day it released. He set out to learn and cover every song on this record within 24 hours of release. And apparently he reached his goal within 12 hours of release. Now, maybe that says something about his natural ability. Maybe that says he's a huge Slipknot fan, so he's used to their cadences and so on and so forth, and the phrasing that Mick and Jim use on their guitars. Or maybe it's just that simple of a record. It's probably not the latter. It's probably a little combination of the first two, but it's impressive nonetheless. So follow the link in the description and go check out this guy's channel, because it's interesting. That's quite the feat. Jumping into TV news, this is going to be a shorter episode, just not a whole lot happened in the last few days, but TV news, we do have a couple of interesting bits. First of all, we got another trailer for Season 10 of The Walking Dead, and in that trailer, we hear Carol and Daryl talking about Maggie. Now, is this going to bring back Maggie? Are we going to see Maggie in season 10? As I have said in the past, I would be surprised if she has any major part in season 10, but I do think they'll probably bring her in, at least in a sort of walk-on kind of situation. In like the last episode or two, I think we'll finally see her face, because Lauren Cohen's other show that she left The Walking Dead for has been canceled, so why wouldn't she come back? It's a great series, everyone wants to be a part of it, and now she's very possibly coming back, and we're gonna just move on. Oh, and this is very, very possibly one of the most influential pieces that we're going to be talking about probably for the next while, because this is an ongoing news piece. The streaming wars rather have kind of started peaking. Warner Brothers, who owns the rights to Two and a Half Men, Big Bang Theory, and a few others, but most notably Two and a Half Men, Big Bang Theory, and I believe Friends, even though that the rights there are kind of tied up in Hulu, and because that's migrating from Netflix at the end of the year. Anyway, they're now opening up the bidding to other streaming platforms, potentially for Two and a Half Men and Big Bang Theory, and then again, there's like 2 or 3 other shows, and it's getting heated. Right now, they're both series are getting offers of over a billion with a B, over $1 billion. Big Bang Theory is over $1.5 billion. That's insane. And to make things even more crazy, because Warner Brothers owns it, they're potentially selling it to themselves to stream it on HBO Max, because that's who's offering the largest sum right now. But also, Seinfeld, as of 2021, is no longer tied up in streaming with Hulu, so they're about to be on the market. So rumblings have been going around how much Seinfeld is going to be bringing in. That is an insane amount. Like, oh, my brain hurts just from trying to process, because then all of those people through syndication are still getting their royalty checks, and that just means none of them ever have to work again. And it's insane to me but I mean, if you can get all of those big properties in one space, especially one that is just starting up like HBO Max, there's no stopping it. Like, those are 3 of the biggest, 4 if you count Friends, biggest sitcoms in television history. That is bonkers, and they stand to potentially make even more than the almost $3 billion they would be losing on just those 2 series. So, or they would be spending to get those 2 series anyway. That's just, I'm passing this off to you guys. Do you think this is getting ridiculous? Is it just me, or is that just an insane amount of money? Let's have that conversation down in the comments, but now let's talk about movies. And first, in movies, we're talking about an update for the A Quiet Place sequel, Quiet Place 2, which still, we don't know if that's what they're calling it, that's just the working title, but Brian Tyree Henry, who I'm pretty sure we talked about as being cast for the movie, is no longer going to be in the movie. There were scheduling conflicts, he had to back out, but in his place, probably one of the better choices that they've made, and they've only made the one that I'm aware of, is that Djimon Hounsou has been cast to replace Brian Tyree Henry. I am a huge fan of Djimon Hounsou. I feel like he's definitely one of the best actors alive right now. He's, granted, he does not always do great movies, and granted, sometimes he takes silly parts, but I mean, who else can go from being the friggin' king of one of the 7 kingdoms in Aquaman, who looks like a friggin' seahorse, and then play the wizard Shazam, and then also be the dude from Amistad, and like, that's just insane to me. The dude is awesome, and couple him with John Krasinski behind the camera directing this, it's just going to be huge. I think this is a great casting choice, but I'm not going to gush forever. Let's just move on, shall we? And we're going from a really high to kind of a low, because this is a follow-up on the Doctor Doom that we've been following with Noah Hawley, the guy who brought us Legion that just came to an end. In an interview recently with Deadline, since the end of the final season of Legion, he said that Legion's done, and now Doctor Doom is done, so I'm going on vacation, because I've never really done that before, so I'm going to do it. And he kind of said that in passing. If you read the text of the interview, it seems to have been more of a passing thing. And then he circles back around and says, well, it's on my plate. Doctor Doom, I can still push for them to make it. And if they agree with my vision for this character, if they agree with my vision for this section of the Marvel Universe, then it can still potentially get made. But as it stands right now, he is not doing that push. He is not actively pursuing making this movie, because he just got done with 3 seasons of one of the better, or best even, comic book TV shows. So, I mean, you gotta give him that much at least. And considering we're not likely to see the Fantastic Four until Phase 5, he still has 2 to 3 years before it would even be an option to make a Doctor Doom movie. So, even though he's saying this is dead, I still feel like this is a project that can and potentially even will get made in the future, just not in the near future by any means. And our final piece of movie news has to do with this year's Aladdin movie, the remake, the live-action remake that Guy Ritchie directed and all of these things, and now apparently because it did so well, as Disney is wont to do, they're considering making a live-action sequel that may or may not have a lot to do with the direct-to-video release of the sequel to the animated movie, which is called Return of Jafar. And my brain kind of hurts a little bit just thinking, well, okay, so to be fair, Dan Lin, when he was talking to Sci-Fi Wire about this, said that they would not base it directly on any movie. But he also said that people and fans specifically have been sending in letters and emails and so on and so forth that say, I love what you did with the original, now can we see Return of Jafar? And he calls out Return of Jafar by name. There is another sequel, a third Aladdin direct-to-video movie that is a little less of a mixed bag, I feel like, than Return of Jafar, but still kind of a mixed bag. So maybe, and again, we're conjecturing here, maybe we're going to see, okay, so there's 2 scenarios that play out in my head. First, because they are still very much early in production, Dan Lin was very aware, he was made sure to say that if this happens, it is a long way out. And I'm paraphrasing, because he said they're very early in the production ideas, they're just kicking around ideas. So, the ideal, if this were to happen, in my mind, the ideal would be make a sequel that is wholly original and bring back all of your cast. Because that's one of the things that really screwed over Return of Jafar, because no Robin Williams, no name, nobody cared. But if you can do that, if you can do something that is wholly original, don't touch Return of Jafar, don't touch whatever they called the third one, just do something that expands on what's there in a more 2019, probably 2020, 21 by the time it comes out, 2020, 21 kind of way, something that is more modern and don't get stuck in the 90s. Yes, that was a great launching pad. That was a great place to start. But don't follow the same pattern you followed back in the 90s, because then it's going to be diminishing returns and nobody's going to care again. Or the more, and this one, I don't know how much more, but I do feel like it's more likely, what's more likely is they're going to make something that is kind of original, but still has a lot of flavor of Return of Jafar and a lot of flavor of the second sequel, and then that's where it ends. That's how it drops, until they need to re-up the IP again in like 15 years or whatever it is, and we'd go through all of this all over again. But that's just kind of where I'm thinking. What do you guys think? What would you like to see, and what do you think they're going to do with a sequel for Aladdin? Let's talk about that one as well. Now, guys, let's kick on into gaming news. And in gaming news, we actually have a few things to talk about. First and foremost, and probably the biggest, well, not the biggest thing this week, but one of the bigger things this week is the announcement of the expansion for Destiny 2, the Shadowkeep expansion for Destiny 2. It's nothing content-wise is really out of the ordinary for this necessarily. It's just the amount of content that's out of the ordinary. Apparently, once this expansion launches, it is going to contain 165 gigabytes worth of information. I'm pretty sure that's bigger than most games. That's bigger than most games combined 3 times over. Like, that's insanely huge, because an average game, you figure, is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 7 gigs, give or take, maybe, depending on how big the day one DLC is. Up to maybe 12 gig, but 165. How big is this? What can you do in this game? Like, that's insane. And this is just the expansion. I mean, obviously, we know what you can do in Destiny because it's been out for a while. But Destiny 2, this is an expansion to a game. I'm just going to keep rambling if we don't move on. So let's move on, shall we? Next, we're going to talk another real quick update. Fortnite was supposed to get an expansion, or an update rather, today. And it didn't. Version 10.10 did not get updated, and no announcement as to why. Just a tweet from the makers of Fortnite saying, sorry guys, we noticed a snag and now we have to fix it, so we'll let you know later when you can download your game. Or update your game, I guess, because everybody already has Fortnite. Everybody's playing Fortnite. They're streaming it right now. So that just a thing, like if you were expecting it and you didn't get it, then there it is, because they didn't update it for you. Next, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch and all of the minor updates that they've been getting. There is one that kind of slipped under the radar a little bit. Apparently, Nintendo just filed a patent for a Super Nintendo-looking controller that will attach to the Switch. Now, these kind of things oftentimes are just companies trying to cover their butts, trying to take care of things so that other people don't try and market similar style things as to what they're marketing. So this very well could just be Nintendo saying, hey, nobody make a third-party peripheral that looks like a Super Nintendo controller, because that's our game and we might make that someday. Or they're getting ready to launch some Super Nintendo games on their online store, which kind of coincides with some of the rumors that we've talked about recently. So I honestly think that this is more confirmation rather than them just trying to cut somebody else off at the pass. This is we're looking very potentially at some Super Nintendo release. We're very potentially looking at some release dates for Super Nintendo games on the Nintendo Switch, and that's kind of freaking awesome. And then our last bit of news has to do with Mortal Kombat 11. Today is the day, if you have your combat pack, that you can play as Nightwolf. But with the minor updates we've been getting leading up to Nightwolf, we've got some really interesting additions to the game as well. Obviously, the general user interface has changed in like practice and stuff, but they told us about that in the Combat Cast. What they didn't tell us about in the Combat Cast is the secret brutalities. I'm going to link down to Dynasty because Dynasty's got this on lock. If you are curious as to who got secret brutalities, how to do those secret brutalities, or just generally what do they look like, then go check out the link in the description. Dynasty is exclusively Mortal Kombat, and I do appreciate the stuff that he does, even though sometimes he gets on my nerves, just the way he talks, but that's because he's a kid, and I just am not a fan of my generation. Anyway, but I mean, there's Scorpion, Noob Saibot, Cassie Cage, Johnny Cage, Jackie Briggs. I think that's everybody. But there's some crazy secret brutalities. And honestly, there's potentially everyone has secret brutalities because they're not listed. That's why they're secret. They're not listed in the moves list on when you pause the game. When you go into the pause menu, the secret brutalities aren't there. They're not listed. So it's really cool. Go check it out because I've really been digging it. And some of them are kind of minor alterations from existing brutalities, but the Noob Saibot one is a completely new brutality. So it's worth it. It's worth it checking out. And let's move on to our final section of the episode, that is comic books. And the first thing in comic books is just kind of a light piece. Gail Simone, who, I mean, you one way or the other, people love her or hate her. There's really not a whole lot of gray area when it comes to that because she's kind of divisive. Not necessarily because her writing itself is divisive, but because some people don't think her writing is very good and they think she's more of a diversity hire rather than a talent hire. I haven't really read much of her stuff. I mean, I've read a bit, and I would probably be one that would fall in the gray area because it's not bad, and I'm sure I haven't done any research into how she got the job or what she did before she was working for DC, but that is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is a thing that she did that's kind of freaking brilliant, and I love it so much. On Twitter, there is a hashtag that is trending called #BatmanYelp. And it's people, Gail Simone posted it, said, Yelp something as if you were Batman, something that Batman would Yelp about. And so it's trending now because people are yelping about Arkham Asylum, people are yelping about like restaurants in Gotham, people are yelping about, one of my favorite ones was somebody yelped about a building because the night security manager came out and asked him not to sulk on the gargoyle of the building. It's really funny. Go check it if you have a Twitter, because most people do. Go check out #BatmanYelp because that's hilarious. But the real piece of news that we're talking about is Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, who brought us Dark Knight's Metal, who are bringing us right now Last Night on Earth, who have brought us quite a few great stories in the past. Snyder specifically, the Joker Endgame story is one of my favorite things of the last friggin' 15 years. So yeah, definitely excited about this news because they both just re-upped their contract with DC, so they're going to be, they didn't say how much longer they're going to be exclusively DC writers, but they are going to be exclusive DC writers for at least another probably year to 3 years. And in the meantime, while they are exclusive DC writers, or writer and artist, I guess, because Capullo's an artist, but while they're exclusive to DC, we're going to get another big epic story arc from this duo that is honestly putting out some of the best stuff in DC, because DC is just shooting themselves in the foot all over the place, and this is not an example of that. So if you haven't read Dark Knight's Metal, definitely owe it to yourself. If you're not reading Last Night on Earth, then what the heck are you doing? But that is the end of your week in Nerdom today, guys. What did I miss? What should we talk about next episode? Let me know in the comments down below. If though you want to go deeper into the conversation, jump over to the website generallynerdy.net. That is the place that you can find all of the social media links. All of the everything is up on generallynerdy.net or up on patreon.com/generallynerdy. That is the place that you can go support the channel more directly. Again, patreon.com/generallynerdy for all of your nerdy needs. If you are new to this channel, though, click the subscribe button. If you like the episode, click the like button. If you are falling behind on your nerd news, I'm very animated right now, then you can click or tap the box right there to the left of my face to do that. But before you do, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.